The danger of exceeding the frequency of everyone around you. Nikola Tesla. It was 3 in the morning when Nikola Tesla heard the voices for the first time. These were no ordinary whispers. They were frequencies, mathematical patterns that translated into sounds inside his mind, as if the universe itself was trying to speak to him through a language that no human being had ever deciphered. He was alone in his laboratory in Colorado Springs, surrounded by gigantic coils and wires that stretched like metallic veins across the walls. The air smelled of ozone and electricity, and on that night in 1899, something changed forever. Tesla had just completed an experiment that defied all known laws of physics. He had managed to transmit electrical power wirelessly over miles of distance. Lamps lit themselves in open fields powered by invisible waves that cut through the air like luminous ghosts. But that wasn't what disturbed him. What made his heart race was realizing that, during the experiment, he had picked up signals that didn't come from anywhere on Earth. 3 pulses, pause, 3 pulses, pause, 3 pulses. A pattern too deliberate to be accidental, too smart to be natural. Tesla wrote everything down in his diary with shaking hands. He knew he had touched on something humanity was not prepared to understand. And he also knew that, from that moment on, his life would never be the same. Because when you surpass the frequency of everyone around you, you don't become a hero, you become a threat. 2 years before that night, Tesla was the most celebrated man in America. Its alternating current engines lit up entire cities. His name appeared in newspapers from New York to San Francisco. Millionaires lined up to finance his inventions. He dined with Mark Twain, talked to architects of the future, and was welcomed as a visionary wherever he went. But there was something that no one noticed. The further Tesla advanced in his discoveries, the more alone he became. It wasn't just social loneliness, it was something deeper, a vibrational disconnection from the rest of humanity. He saw patterns where others saw chaos. He heard frequencies where others heard silence. I felt energetic fields that simply did not exist in the world, and it isolated him in a way that words couldn't describe. Once, during a dinner in Manhattan, an investor asked Tesla about his future plans. "I want to give free energy to the whole world," Tesla replied calmly. "No wires, no meters, no corporations controlling access." The silence that followed was more revealing than any response. The looks around the table changed. What was once admiration became distrust. What was once interest became fear. Because Tesla had made the most dangerous mistake anyone can make in this world. He had revealed that his frequency was too high for the system that surrounded him. And the system always finds a way to silence those who vibrate beyond what is allowed. The man who orchestrated Tesla's downfall did not use weapons. I used money. His name was J.P. Morgan, the most powerful banker in the United States, owner of railroads, steel mills, and the very electricity that ran through New York's veins. Morgan had financed Tesla early on, fascinated by the commercial potential of his inventions. But when he understood what Tesla really wanted to do, distribute free energy to all of humanity, something changed in his eyes. It wasn't anger, it was cold calculation. Morgan did not oppose Tesla out of malice. He was opposed because Tesla represented the end of a model. If energy was free, how would he control the world? If everyone had unlimited access to electricity, where would the power be? The answer was simple: nowhere. And that, for Morgan, was unacceptable. He began to act in the shadows. First, he cut funding for the Wardenclyffe Tower, Tesla's most ambitious project, which promised to transmit energy and information to any point on the planet without using a single wire. Then he used his influence to ensure that no other investors approached. Newspapers that previously praised Tesla began to question him. Scientists who once admired him began calling him an eccentric, crazy, delirious. The reputational destruction machine was activated with surgical precision, and Tesla, who had never learned to play the political game, saw his empire crumble without understanding exactly what was happening. But there was something that not even Morgan knew, something Tesla had hidden from even his closest assistants. The night he picked up the signals of unknown origin in Colorado Springs, he didn't just hear the frequencies, he replied, and what came next would change the course of human history in ways that world still doesn't fully understand. If this story is resonating with something inside you, if you feel there are truths about Tesla that have never been told, subscribe to the channel. What comes next will reveal what really happened in the shadows. The answer came 17 days later. Tesla was alone in the laboratory, as always. Most of the assistants had already left, some due to lack of payment, others out of fear. Stories about what happened in that place had spread throughout the city. Lights that blinked on their own, orbs of plasma that floated in the air, sounds that seemed to come from nowhere. That night he was calibrating the receiver when he heard it again. 3 pulses, pause, 3 pulses, pause. But this time there was something more, an additional sequel, more complex, as if someone, or something, was trying to establish a dialogue. Tesla sat in front of the equipment with his heart racing. His hands, normally as steady as a surgeon's, shook slightly as he adjusted the dials. He knew that what he was about to do could be the most important moment in the history of science, or the biggest mistake of your life. He transmitted it back. Use the same pattern. 3 pulses, pause, 3 pulses, and waited. The silence that followed lasted exactly 47 seconds. Tesla counted each one of them. Then the receiver began to pick up something that made his blood run cold. They were no longer simple pulses. It was a mathematical sequence, prime numbers, 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, a universal signature of intelligence. Tesla fell to his knees on the cold laboratory floor. Tears were streaming down his face without him noticing. At that moment, he understood something that would forever change his view of the universe. Humanity was not alone, never was, and he was the first to know. But knowledge is a burden. In the days that followed, Tesla faced a dilemma that consumed him inside. Should I tell the world? Should he reveal that he had made contact with something beyond human understanding? He imagined the reactions. The newspapers would call him crazy. The scientific community would ridicule him. Morgan would use this as final proof of his mental instability. Everything he had fought for, all his credibility, all his work, would be destroyed in a matter of days. But there was something worse. What if the world was not prepared for this truth? Tesla knew human nature. I had seen how people reacted to the unknown, afraid, with violence, with the primitive need to destroy what they did not understand. If he revealed the contact, governments would try to militarize the discovery. Corporations would try to monopolize it. Religions would collapse or become radicalized. The social fabric of humanity could tear in irreparable ways. Then Tesla made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He decided to keep the secret. But secrets of this magnitude come at a price, and the price is absolute loneliness. While Tesla struggled under the weight of what he knew, Morgan moved his pieces around the board. The banker had hired a man named Thomas Edison to be the public face of his war against Tesla. Edison wasn't just an inventor. He was a brutal businessman, willing to do anything to win. He had built his empire on direct current, and Tesla, with his superior alternating current, posed an existential threat. The rivalry between the two had lasted for years. But now, with Morgan's funding, Edison had unlimited resources to destroy his opponent. The campaign began with macabre public demonstrations. Edison electrocuted animals in squares, dogs, horses, even an elephant, using alternating current to prove that Tesla's technology was dangerous. Newspapers published the images with sensationalist headlines. The easily manipulated public began to associate Tesla's name with death and destruction. But Edison didn't stop there. He lobbied the government for the first electric chair in the United States to use alternating current. The logic was perverse in its simplicity. If Tesla's technology were used to kill criminals, it would forever be tarnished in the popular mind. And it worked. The execution of William Kemmler in 1890 was a grotesque disaster. The current wasn't enough to kill him on the first try. Witnesses described the smell of burning flesh, the screams, the absolute horror of those endless minutes. The newspapers crucified alternating current, and by extension, they crucified Tesla. And what no one knew, not Edison, not Morgan, not the public, was that Tesla wasn't just suffering the attacks. He was watching, studying, learning. His enemy's every move was recorded in his photographic mind. Each strategy was analyzed and archived. Tesla may not have understood the rules of the political game, but he was, above all, a scientist. And scientists observe patterns. He began to realize something that would change his approach completely. Morgan and Edison weren't just trying to destroy him. They were trying to destroy an idea. The idea that energy could be free. The idea that knowledge should be shared. The idea that human progress should not be controlled by a few. And ideas, Tesla knew, cannot be killed, just temporarily silenced. It was then that he started working on something new, something no one expected. His enemies thought he was defeated, isolated, on the brink of financial ruin. They couldn't be more wrong, because Tesla wasn't hiding. He was getting ready, and what he planned to do would shake the very foundations of the power that tried to crush him. There was, however, one piece on this board that no one knew about, a man who operated in shadows even deeper than Morgan. Someone whose name never appeared in newspapers, whose face was never seen in public, but whose decisions shaped the destiny of nations. Tesla would only discover its existence years later, and when he did, he would understand that his fight was never just against Morgan or Edison. It was against something much bigger, an invisible structure that controlled not only electrical energy, but the very frequency at which humanity operated, a structure that could not allow someone like Tesla to exist freely, because men who vibrate too high cannot be controlled, and that which cannot be controlled must be destroyed. But Tesla had something that his enemies completely underestimated. He had the universe on his side, and the universe, as he was about to discover, had plans of its own for this lonely inventor from Colorado Springs. Tesla's New York laboratory no longer looked like an innovation center. It looked like a fortress. The windows were covered with dark paper. The most sensitive equipment was hidden behind false walls. Tesla had fired all but one of his assistants, a young Serbian immigrant named Petar, who had sworn absolute loyalty and slept on a mattress in the corner of the laboratory to ensure no one entered during the night. It was 1901, and Tesla was more isolated than ever, but also more focused. During the day, he kept up appearances. He received journalists occasionally, talked about smaller projects, let the world think it was over. At night, however, the real work took place. Tesla had realized something fundamental about his enemies. They controlled the money, the media, and the government. Fighting them in these camps was suicide. It would be like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. But there was one field where they had no power at all: the field of frequencies. Morgan could control banks. Edison could control public opinion. But none of them could control the invisible laws that governed the universe. None of them understood that physical reality was just the surface, and that beneath it was an ocean of energy that obeyed completely different rules. Tesla decided it was time to dive into this ocean and never return to the surface. The project had no official name. In Tesla's diaries, he referred to himself simply as the amplifier. The idea was simple in theory, but revolutionary in practice, creating a device capable of amplifying the human mental frequency to the point that it can interact directly with the planet's energy field. In other words, Tesla wanted to create a machine that turned thoughts into reality, not through magic or mysticism, through pure physics. He had calculated that the human brain operated at specific frequencies, and that these frequencies generated measurable electromagnetic fields. If these fields could be amplified and synchronized with the Earth's natural resonance, it would be possible to create effects that would defy conventional explanation. Instant cure of illnesses, transmission of thoughts at a distance, manipulation of matter through focused intention. It seemed crazy, and maybe it was. But Tesla had learned something in his decades of work. All sufficiently advanced technology seems like magic to those who don't understand it, and he was about to create the most advanced technology humanity had ever seen. The problem was that he needed resources, rare materials, specialized equipment, things that cost fortunes that he no longer had. It was then that something unexpected happened. The letter arrived without a sender. Petar found it slipped under the door one December morning, when snow covered the streets of New York like a white blanket. The envelope in plain paper, no stamps, no marks. Inside, there was just a sheet with a short handwritten message. "We know what you're building. We want to help. Go to Central Park tomorrow at 3 p.m. Bench by the lake. Go alone." Tesla read the message 7 times. His first reaction was fear, a Morgan trap, an attempt by Edison to steal his designs. But something about the message intrigued him. The tone was different. There were no threats. There were no demands. Just an offer. He spent the entire night awake, analyzing the possibilities. When the sun rose, his decision was made. He would. The man waiting on the bench didn't look threatening. He was short, with gray hair and a dark overcoat that made him look like a retired college professor. His eyes, however, told a different story. They were eyes that had seen things, eyes that held secrets. Tesla sat next to him without saying anything. For a long moment, the two sat in silence, watching the ducks glide across the partially frozen water of the lake. Then the man spoke. "You're trying to build a bridge," he said, without looking at Tesla. "A bridge between the human mind and the unified field of the universe." Tesla felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold. "How do you know that?" The man smiled slightly. "Because we tried the same thing, a long time ago, and we failed." Tesla studied the stranger's face, looking for signs of deception. Didn't find any. "Who is us? That doesn't matter now. What matters is that you're closer than anyone has ever been, but you're making a fundamental mistake that will destroy everything." "What mistake?" The man finally turned to face him. "You're trying to amplify the wrong frequency." What followed was the strangest conversation of Tesla's life. The man explained concepts that challenged everything Tesla believed he knew about physics. He talked about frequencies that could not be measured by any existing instrument, about dimensions of reality that existed parallel to ours, separated only by vibrational differences, about a network of conscious energy that connected not only all matter in the universe, but all mind, and about the danger of accessing this network without adequate preparation. "You're trying to use thought frequency," the man said, "but thoughts are just the surface. Beneath them lies something deeper, more powerful, and infinitely more dangerous." "What?" "The frequency of intention." Tesla frowned. "What's the difference?" "Thoughts are like waves on the surface of an ocean. They come and go, they constantly change, they are affected by everything around them. But intention is the deep current. It's what moves the entire ocean. If you can tap into that frequency and amplify it, you won't just interact with reality, you'll rewrite it." Tesla felt the weight of those words. He immediately understood the implications. "And why did you fail?" The man was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was almost a whisper. "Because we weren't prepared for what we found on the other side." And before leaving, the man left a package. Inside were detailed technical schematics for modifications to Tesla's design, diagrams of specific crystals that needed to be used, exact frequencies that needed to be achieved, and a final warning, written in red letters on the last page. "When the device is ready, you will have a choice. The most important choice any human being has ever had to make. Choose wisely. The universe will be watching." Tesla never saw the man again. He looked for him for months. He investigated secret societies, esoteric orders, clandestine scientific groups, found nothing. It was as if the man had simply disappeared, or as if he had never existed. But the schemes were real, and they worked. Over the next 6 months, Tesla completely rebuilt the amplifier. He incorporated the modifications, acquired the specific crystals, spending the last savings he had, and recalibrated each component to the new frequencies. And when everything was ready, he understood why his enemies were so afraid of him. Because the device wasn't just a machine, it was a door to a level of reality where the rules were completely different, where thought and matter were the same thing, where consciousness wasn't tied to the body, and time didn't flow in just one direction. Tesla looked at his creation with a mixture of awe and terror. He had spent his entire life trying to push the limits of human knowledge. Now, finally, he was facing the final limit, and I wasn't sure I was ready to cross it. Tesla activated the device one night, no moon. He had calculated that electromagnetic interference would be minimal, and that the Earth's natural resonance would be at its most stable point. Everything needed to be perfect. There would be no second chance. Petar was outside, watching the street. Tesla had instructed his assistant not to enter the laboratory under any circumstances, even if he heard screams, even if he saw strange lights. "If I don't leave by dawn," Tesla said before closing the door, "destroy everything, burn the journals, melt down the equipment, leave nothing behind." Peter nodded with moist eyes. He knew he might never see his master alive again. The amplifier occupied the center of the laboratory like a technological altar. It was a structure of copper and crystal with coils rising toward the ceiling. In the center, there was a wooden chair where Tesla would sit to connect his mind to the device through electrodes on his temples. He took a deep breath. He thought about everything he had sacrificed. The lost fortune, friends away, the love he never allowed in his life. He thought about his mother, who died without understanding what her son was doing. He sat down on the chair, connected the electrodes, and activated the amplifier. Tesla felt his body disappear. It wasn't numbness. It was as if the notion of having a body simply ceased to exist. He became pure consciousness, floating in a void beyond all category. And then the visions began. He saw Earth from space as a living entity, pulsing with networks of light energy. He saw ancient civilizations that had mastered these forces, built impossible monuments, achieved unimaginable states of consciousness, and he saw how they had fallen, not by wars or disasters, but because they had attracted attention. The universe was not empty. It was inhabited, not by physical beings, but by consciousnesses, vast intelligences that existed in the highest frequencies, watching, waiting. Most were indifferent to humanity, but some weren't. Tesla saw shadows that lurked at the edges of the collective human consciousness, entities that fed on mental energy, of fear, of conflict. They manipulated humanity through people in positions of power, unconscious channels for their influence. And with an absolute shock, Tesla understood who was behind Morgan. It was no ordinary human greed. It was something that used greed as a tool. But along with this revelation came another, luminous and transformative. There were consciousnesses that operated at even higher frequencies, who protected, guided, planted seeds of awakening. The signs from Colorado Springs were an invitation to enter this network of cosmic intelligences. Tesla had been chosen as the point of contact, not because he is superior, but for being stubborn enough to keep searching when everything was conspiring against him, lonely enough to hear frequencies that social noise drowned out in everyone else. His loneliness was not a curse, it was an antenna. And the view changed again. Tesla found himself decades in the future. Old man, alone, in a cheap hotel room, feeding pigeons while the world hums with his electricity, without giving him a penny. He saw his silent death, the body discovered days later. And he saw government agents breaking down the door, confiscating boxes of documents and projects, a life's work disappearing into black cars. But there was something they never found, a small safe, buried in a place only Tesla knew. Inside, the complete schematics, the exact frequencies, and something else, a smaller, portable device that anyone could use, the democratization of access to high frequency. Nikola Tesla then understood the choice mentioned by the mysterious man. You could use the knowledge for yourself, defeat Morgan, Edison, all enemies, build an empire, or he could plant the seed and let others find it when humanity was ready, accepting apparent defeat, poverty, forgotten death, knowing that someone, one day, would open that safe. Tesla made his choice. When he opened his eyes, the sun was rising over New York. Petar slept outside. Tesla touched his shoulder, and the young man woke up with a start. "Master, are you okay?" Tesla smiled in a way Petar had never seen before. Serene, complete. "I'm better than I've ever been, and I have work to do." In the following months, he created the smaller device, wrote the instructions, prepared everything to be found at the right time. Then, deliberately, he dismantled his own life. He let creditors take over the laboratory. He didn't fight Morgan. He allowed the world to see him as a fallen genius speaking with pigeons in parks. It was the best protection for the secret. No one looks for treasures in a broke man's house. And while Tesla became invisible, the seed waited in silence, vibrating at the frequency of pure intention, ready to germinate when humanity finally reached the frequency needed to find it. The following years were a long exercise in invisibility. Tesla moved from grand laboratories to smaller and smaller apartments, from luxurious hotels to modest rooms, from dinners with millionaires to solitary meals in cheap diners where no one recognized him. For the world, it was the fall of a genius. For Tesla, it was the perfect execution of a plan. Every step down the social ladder was a step away from the eyes that watched him. Morgan had died in 1913, but the structure he represented was still alive and still watching. Tesla knew that any sign that he was still working on something important would attract immediate attention. Then he became exactly what they expected him to be, an eccentric, harmless old man, lost in delusions about death rays and communicating with pigeons. The perfect mask. But in the quiet hours of dawn, when the hotel was asleep and the streets of New York finally fell silent, Tesla continued his work, not on grandiose equipment, in notebooks. He wrote down everything he had learned, the exact frequencies, the portable device diagrams, instructions for accessing the cosmic consciousness network, and something else, a map, not a geographic map, but a vibrational map. A guide so that future seekers could find their way without making the mistakes that previous civilizations had made. Each page was written in code, not a conventional code that cryptographers could crack, but a vibrational code. The words would only make complete sense to someone who was already operating on the right frequency. It was a filter, a test. If you weren't ready, you would only see the ramblings of a senile man. If you were, you would see the most precious map ever created. In January 1943, Tesla felt the end was near. It wasn't fear, it was recognition. His body had served well for 86 years, but now it asked for rest. He accepted this with the same equanimity as he accepted the laws of physics. There was no point in fighting the inevitable, but there was still one last task. On a cold night, Tesla left the New Yorker hotel for the last time. He walked through the icy streets to a place few knew about, a small park on the outskirts of the city where he used to go as a young man, in his early years in America, when everything was still possibility and promise. There was a tree there, an ancient oak tree that Tesla had visited for decades. He dug into the frozen earth with his bare hands. His fingers bled. His body was shaking from the cold and exhaustion, but he didn't stop until the hole was deep enough. He deposited the metal safe with almost religious care. Inside were notebooks, the portable device, and a letter addressed to no one and everyone, to be read by whoever found that treasure at the right time. Tesla covered the vault with dirt, smoothed the surface. He looked at the oak one last time. "Guard it well," he whispered, and he walked back to the hotel, knowing he would never go back there again. 3 days later, a chambermaid found his body. He was lying in bed, dressed impeccably, with his hands crossed over his chest. His face was serene, almost smiling. The news of his death occupied a few lines in the newspapers, a paragraph or two about the once famous inventor who died forgotten and broke. Few attended the funeral. Even fewer remembered what he had actually done for the world. But before the body cooled, the vultures arrived. Federal agents raided the hotel room. They took everything, every piece of paper, every notebook, every piece of equipment. They said it was for national security, that Tesla had worked on weapons that could not fall into the wrong hands. They spent months analyzing the confiscated material, and they found nothing. Just disjointed drafts, incomprehensible diagrams, letters for pigeons, the work of a mind that had clearly deteriorated in recent years. They closed the case. They filed the boxes away in some dusty warehouse, and they forgot about Nikola Tesla, exactly as he had planned. The safe remains buried to this day. The oak is still there, older, stronger, with roots that twine around the metal like protective fingers. Generations have passed through that park without knowing what lies beneath their feet. Wars were fought, empires fell, technology has advanced in ways that Tesla predicted and in ways that not even he imagined. But the seed keeps waiting, vibrating at a frequency that few can capture, silently calling those who are ready, those who, like Tesla, feel there is something more, who hear patterns where others hear noise, who see connections where others see chaos, the lonely ones, the misunderstood, those that vibrate too loudly for the world around them. Tesla's message to them is simple. You are not broken. They're not crazy. They are not alone. They are just ahead. And now you know the truth about the danger of surpassing the frequency of everyone around you. The danger is not isolation, although it comes. It's not poverty, although that can come too. It is not even the opposition of those who want to keep humanity vibrating low. The real danger is giving up. It's letting the weight of misunderstanding make you doubt what you know to be true. It's allowing loneliness to convince you that there is something wrong with you, when in fact there is something extraordinary. Tesla endured decades of attacks, betrayals, and oblivion. I could have given in at any time. He could have sold his ideas, compromised his vision, become another engineer serving the interests of men like Morgan. But he didn't give in, because he knew that his frequency was not a curse to be cured. It was a mission to be accomplished. But users are the same choices before you now. You can try lowering your frequency, silence the perceptions that make you different, fitting into a world that operates on a vibration that suffocates your soul. Or you can do what Tesla did, accept the cost, embrace solitude not as punishment, but as the space needed to hear what needs to be heard. Use your isolation as a laboratory, your incomprehension as protection, your difference as an antenna. The universe is watching, not with judgment, with expectation, waiting to see if you will honor the frequency you received, if you will have the courage to vibrate high even when everything around you tries to pull you down, if you are going to plant your own seeds, even though you know that you may not live to see them germinate. Tesla left his message buried under an oak tree. What will yours be? The frequency of pure intention still pulses on this planet. It is among those who question when it would be easier to accept, in those who create when it would be safer to copy, those who love deeply in a world that encourages superficial connections. It's in you, if you choose to activate it. No need for a copper and crystal amplifier, no need for secret schemes or buried safes. The device already exists. It's your conscience, and the only frequency you need to reach is the one you already carry within you, drowned out by years of doubt, fear, and external noise, but never destroyed, never erased. Tesla knew that one day people like you would find this story. They would feel something resonate. They would recognize the truth, not because someone convinced them, but because they already knew it. He was speaking to you through time, and the only question left is, are you ready to answer? The universe does not work with words. It works frequently, and when you change your vibration, when you stop asking for permission to be who you really are, all of reality begins to reorganize itself around you. Doors open, right people appear. Opportunities come from places you would never expect, not because the universe owes you something, but because you are finally operating on the frequency where he can hear you. Tesla lived and died by this truth. Now it is in your hands. If this message found you at the right time, if something inside you recognizes what was said here, subscribe to the channel. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Let the frequency spread, because Tesla's legacy is not in a buried vault. It is in every consciousness that awakens, including yours.